Welcome back, and today we're going to take a look at a few different aspects inside the Nik collection. The first is going to be the color effects, and specifically we're going to be applying Photoshop masks to filters inside of Color Efex. However, just about any filter that can use masks can have a Photoshop mask applied to it. If you set up the Nik collection preferences correctly, when you transfer your image over to any of the different applications, it will automatically apply all the masks that you've already created inside the Nik collection filter. Or you can personally just select the ones that you want to move over into those applications. And lastly, we're going to take a look at Dfine, which is a noise removal program inside of the program. Color Efex is the most robust application of all the Nik collection, and it would just be too much to go through. So at the end of this video, I've created a 2-minute slideshow, and what I did is I took a untoned image and I applied a preset from each one of the different filters, so it gives you an example of what you can do. All right, so we have this image here, and it has a few issues that we need to resolve to accurately tone it. And there's a couple of different ways to attack this. But what I'm going to do is before I do anything to this image, I'm just going to go ahead and open this photo. So we're in Photoshop. I'm going to come in here to the preferences, and essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to launch Color Efex, which is right here in the Nik collection. And we're going to throw this into it. And what this is going to do, it's going to show us what the issue is here. So I shot this years ago at Longwood Gardens out near Philadelphia. And it does have some grain in the image. This was shot on a Canon 5D Mark III. All right, so Color Efex is set up just like any of the other programs that we've taken a look at. So we have our presets here, but we're going to go straight into the filters, and we're going to take a look at Brilliance and Warmth, which is actually a pretty cool filter. I'm going to hit plus, and that's going to apply it. And what I'm going to do is just increase the saturation here, and I'm going to over exaggerate it. That's fine. Yes, it's making this neon. But what we can see is no matter what I do, here in the background of this image, also enhancing the color noise. And almost no matter what I do at any level, it's enhancing this. So we need to tackle this. So we have a couple of different ways to tackle this. One cool thing that we have inside of Color Efex, one cool option is we can apply Photoshop masked. So I can load those in, we can apply that filter, we can isolate just the flower and not the background. That's one way to solve this. The next is we could use denoise, but in this image, I want to print it really large. So I want to use supersize inside Adobe Camera Raw to make that image bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to cancel out of this, and we're not going to save anything here. We're going to take this image and get rid of it, and I'm going to throw this back into Adobe Camera Raw. We're going to come right here to super resolution, supersize, same thing. And we're going to double the size of this image because we're going to crop some of it out, but I really want to make this much larger. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and use Dfine inside the Nik collection, which is a noise removal. So you can see all that noise that we're seeing right here in this image. We're going to go ahead and just throw that in. I'm going to hit Command 0 to fill this screen. I'm going to hit the letter K. I actually want to make this a little bit bigger. We're going to come in here and apply a mask a little bit because we're going to darken this area a little bit. I'm going to come in here, darken this down. I'm also going to warm this area up a little bit so it has a little bit of color. And that looks pretty good. We're going to go and throw this into Adobe Photoshop. So now we've doubled the size of this image. However, it's still got all that noise, and no matter what I'm going to do to it, it's going to cause a bunch of issues. So we're going to come in here to Nik's 8 Dfine. All right, and so the preferences are just located. So you go plugins, Nik Collection, and then you can select the preferences and you can select any of the programs right there. Now, one of the important things that we are gonna eventually need to do is notice that it says all masks. We're eventually gonna need that selected. So make sure that you're paying attention to this, and right here it says all masks. We can do all masks, we can do selected mask, or do not send masks. In this case, I'm just gonna do all masks. It doesn't make a difference whether you send one or a whole bunch, because you can pick which ones you want to apply at any time to any portion of the image. So we're good there. So we're gonna hit the D for Dfine, and we're gonna go in here and we're gonna do some noise removal. This is a really simple program. You notice we don't got all these crazy options up here. We're gonna click on this and we're gonna view this at 100%. And the reason you wanna view it 100% so you can see what in the world you're doing when you do this stuff. When you reduce image size, it's difficult to tell what you're doing. So right over here, you'll notice we're automatically measuring noise. We could do that manually by selecting it. We're just gonna go ahead at this point to do it. We can reduce noise in a variety of different manners. Method, we can do local adjustments or by color ranges. We're just gonna go do local adjustments. So we can reduce the contrast noise, the color noise. We can select areas. We can do something called edge preservation. So it's kind of smoothing that out. We don't want to smooth out the edges. We can select this and it is going to save those edges. What we're going to do is click on debanding, and we just want to make sure that we do this vertically, and that looks better. That's starting to smooth that out. So let's come in here and look at some contrast noise. And I'm slowly just applying this and looking at the image really closely when I do it. Let's take a look at the color noise. You can see the color noise is starting to go away. See how it's sort of speckled there? If I move this back, get that kind of speckled look. That's the color noise that we're removing. So let's move this up quite a bit. Give it a second to work down here. That looks okay. Let's move them both up to about 140. So reducing noise inside of Dfine, it can be complicated for a lot of people because there's a whole lot more sliders than something like Photoshop, where you just click on denoise and then you have a % slider and you don't control it. So one of the things you'll recognize in these programs is you get a whole lot more control over the image than you're used to. We're gonna go ahead and hit apply, and that's gonna throw it back into Adobe Photoshop. You can see right here, it's very difficult to kind of see what's going on. So let's just sort of zoom into it a little bit. I'm probably not at 100%, but this was before. You can see all that noise that was located there, and then let's go ahead and go to 100% just so you can see it. So this is after Dfine noise removal, and this is before. So you can see it's really cleaning that up really well. I'm gonna hit Command 0 to get back out of that. So we're gonna do a couple of things before we go into the image, because there's just some specifics that I wanna get into. I don't like this little area over here. We're gonna go ahead and clean it up. We're also going to change the ratio and kind of crop this image so that we can work on it from there. And then we're gonna apply some masks after that. So we're gonna simply just use the remove tool, grab this, and I've already done this a couple of times and it does an okay job, I would say. I should probably make my brush bigger, but you know what? I already started, so we'll just go over it a few times. All right, we've got that. I've got that set up so it doesn't automatically do it in case I need to do it to a couple locations. We'll see what it gives us this time. It's pretty normal in Photoshop to need to use sometimes a couple of different tools to clean stuff up. Actually, it did a pretty good job there. I'm going to switch into the healing brush, and I'm going to option click to get a target. It's just simply giving me a texture. I'm going to go over that. And what I'm doing is there was just a little line that I wanted to clean up. So I'm going to hit Command 0 just to make sure we're out. And now we're going to crop this, and I want to make sure that generative expand is on. And I want to shift this image over a little bit. So we're going to crop in, and then I want to shift this over. And so the reason that I have the generative expand is we're going to need to create some negative space over here on the this side of the image just to balance it out. I think it looks a lot better when we do that. Now I've done this and it creates a weird line. Usually when it does it, it's got a hard edge. So when you deal with AI, it's not always perfect. So you can see right here, it's created this line right here, this hard edge right on that transition. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna grab that Band-Aid. I like the healing brush better than the spot removal brush, just because you can pick these textures when you do it. And what we're gonna do is actually gonna flatten this image. And the reason is we don't need those layers that are not important. So we'll click that edge. I'm gonna click up here. I'm gonna hold shift and go down. And that's just gonna blend out that edge. And that's pretty good. It looks like it screwed this little part up here. So let's go ahead and fix that. That's content aware. It's reading the areas around it. And sometimes it messes things up. We're gonna grab my favorite tool. We're gonna lower, yep, it's at 50%. It's just content aware reads the areas around it, and sometimes it picks up weird colors and messes things up. So we're pretty good there. I think I'm happy with that. So this is our image now, and this is what we're gonna send into Color Efex. Color Efex is pretty cool. I'm gonna duplicate this image just to show you a couple of different ways to move masks into that program. So I've created this here. We're gonna simply click select subject. It's going to go ahead and analyze this. It's going to select out our subject, and then we're simply just going to make a mask. We're going to make a mask on a curves adjustment layer instead of the layer, because I don't really want to put a mask on that layer. And the cool thing is we're just using the mask in this program. So we're just going to make a curves adjustment layer, but we're not going to do anything to it. So this layer is just kind of here. We could make a mask here. We could make multiple masks. We don't need to, but in this case, I'm gonna hit Command J to duplicate it, and I'm gonna hit Command I to invert it. So now we've kind of got the yin and the yang of both of these masks. So if I wanna apply something to the background, I can do that. If I wanna apply something to the foreground, I've got that. So now we're gonna come back here to the preferences. We're gonna come over here, click on Color Efex, and we're gonna send this image into that program. That looks good. And we're going to come back up here to this brilliance warmth. I'm going to click plus. So then we're going to come over here to this little icon. It says import mask above it. We're going to select it, and you can see it's giving us both of our Photoshop masks available. So in this case, I want this top one because I want to only affect the flower. So if you remember, when we were increasing this, it was making the noise worse. And it will probably do less of it, but that still might increase it. So as you can see down here, we've got the Photoshop mask. And now when we come over here and we do this, notice it's only happening in the area where the mask is. Yes, that's exactly what we want. So we have the ability to change the saturation, the warmth, and the perceptual saturation. So if you've ever taken a look in Photoshop, we have what we call rendering intents. And so there's a couple of different rendering intents, and one of them is called perceptual. In this image, I want to warm this up just a little bit, and then I want to increase the saturation just a little bit. And then we're going to come down here, and I'm going to slide this so you can start to see what this does. It's starting to increase that color, all right? And if we go all the way over, it's going to be way too much. So we're just going to come back, and I'm just looking to see what we want to do. And so we've used that mask to now apply this just to that one location. This is a little bit too much for me, so I'm just going to slide the opacity back until I get it into a location that I'm happy with. Remember, I do not like oversaturated colors. The perceptual is too much, and you'd be surprised, but even this is too much. I don't like those oversaturations. However, we did warm this up a little bit. We're going to come over here and we're going to add an HSL. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab a mask. We're going to get the same mask. We're going to apply it because I actually just want the yellow. But this image is made up of yellow, yellow, yellow. If I increase all of yellow, these other areas are going to get bright. Actually, let me just hit Command Z and I will do that. So we'll click on yellow and I'm going to increase the saturation. You can see the yellow saturation increasing everywhere, which is not what I want. I don't really want to increase background saturation because it's distracting to the image. We want this to pop, not the background. So we're going to click on that mask again. We're going to make sure yellow is selected and we're going to increase that saturation right there, just of that yellow, to make that pop a little bit more than it did. I'm good with that. That's just a small adjustment. That's all I wanted to do. And we're going to go ahead and throw this back into Adobe Photoshop. All right, so I'll come in here. I'm going to turn this off, on, so you can see that slight increase of color. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mask on this. And I'm going to paint some of this out here because it's too saturated for my look, but I like what I did here. So I'm going to grab my brush, the color black. I'm going to dial my flow back to about 15% and make this pretty big. And I'm just going to go over it a couple times. I don't want to take it out totally, but I do want to get rid of some of it because I want this to be the focus, not this to be the focus. So I want it to sort of transition up in here to this image. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we have this effect from here to here. So you can see we got a slight adjustment, but we're just barely increasing that. We're going to make one last adjustment. We're going to slide into analog effects and we're going to apply a border to this photo. All right, so we're back here into analog effects. So we're going to come on over. We're going to click on frames. We're going to select frames. I'm going to go from film strip to white. And then I can just simply start clicking on the different frames that we have available. So I think this one is the one I want to use. No, yes, maybe. Here. That one's not too bad. Let's take a look at this one. I actually like that. But what I'm going to do, remove the 264. So we're going to go ahead and hit apply. All right, we're going to get rid of that. So I've created a blank layer and this is simply to remove the 264. Just in case something goes wrong or I don't like it, this makes it so I can simply just turn the layer on and off to get rid of what I've done. We're going to grab the remove tool. We're going to paint over it because I just want to get rid of those numbers. Numbers are actually kind of cool. It's just you can't have them on every single image, but I do like the border. It fits this photo well. And just like that, we have our finished image. We are able to double the size inside Adobe Camera Raw. And since we can't use denoise as well, you can only use one or the other. We used Dfine inside of the Nik collection. Then we created some mask and we were able to intensify just the color using some basic color effects. And Color Efex has all kinds of different applications for adjusting an image. This is one of the things where you really need to just get the program, try it out, and see what the different effects do. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, and give us a thumbs up, that would be great. Don't forget to subscribe and have an absolutely wonderful day.